Our sense of self is first and foremost a physical experience. How we develop that sense of self and our agency in the world is through our bodies and through movement. Why then, when we are developing ourselves and learning about each other and the world around us, would we not cite the body at the centre of our learning? After all, everybody is a body, and everybody is exceptionally intelligent. My name is Ruby Worth and I am a socially engaged creative practitioner based here in Moray. I work across the forms of dance and movement, theatre, education and therapeutic practice. And for the last 18 months, I have been piloting embodied learning in primary schools. And for my Combine to Create residency, I've been working with Applegrove Primary in Forres and with the primary fours. So these are 7 and 8-year-old young people. My residency is based on the following tenets. The body, mind, emotions are interconnected. Different ways of moving can elicit different ways of thinking and feeling. We are neurologically hardwired for connection and compassion. We feel each other's feelings. And dance is the most likely activity to promote joy. So in speaking with the teachers, I recognised what I could bring would be the following aims for the residency. So to cite the body at the centre of their learning, for it to be very physical, for it to be fun, for us to explore playful and connections with each other, to explore a range of energetics from movement being wild to being kind of careful and sensitive to some deep relaxation, and to look at an aspect of the curriculum that they were looking at, which was how as human beings we are interconnected with the wider world around us and with nature, and how nature-based processes can support us to reflect on our human nature. So, for example, the inward and outward movingness of the tide, or the how geese flock together and share leadership so they can travel long distances, and how with mycelium networks like everything and everyone is interconnected and communicating all the time. So practically, we worked in small groups with 10 to 12 young people, weekly over a period of 3 months, which enabled us to facilitate a kind of sense of safety and trust with each other. I had 2 assistants, Sarah Oakes and Lucy Thomas, and we had a ratio of 1 adult to 3 or 4 young people, which allowed us to offer emotional as well as physical holding. So if a young person kind of came in the room and their feelings or their mood did not match the activity or the mood of the group, one of us could be with them and hold them in their particular feeling. And often when their feeling was held, and maybe a little story would come out of how they were feeling that way, often when they had that space, there was just a transformation, and they would have a renewed sense of wanting to engage with the group and with the activities again.
You know, that creativity and the fun and the engagement and the children being together, but actually not being together as a whole class, being together in smaller groups has allowed more one-to-one time or two-to-one time, so that children are getting that need and that demand and that attention, so that you can identify and then liaise with either the class teacher or with myself to say, oh, this one had a really tricky time today, but is there a reason behind that? And I think that's really mindful, and I think you've been really proactive with that, so that we can bring the children back and reflect as a class rather than it just being something that happens on a Thursday morning. It should be seen as a whole thing rather than in isolation.
Certainly what I observed in the first group was that they were coming back in a really kind of calm, happy, focused state. If I think about how they were in the class when they came back after Combine to Create sessions, they were very attentive. You know, I just felt like the listening was really good. That could also be the fact that they're in a smaller group as well. But like I say, overall I think the listening and attention skills were heightened, and just that kind of calm aura about them and that ability for them to then translate that into sitting and focusing on a task, and to be able to do that in a nice, quiet, calm and controlled way, I think was certainly the most obvious thing that jumped out when the groups were coming back. I think it's also been really good for some children's self-confidence as well. You know, there's maybe some shyer children in the class that, you know, you would not traditionally put in that situation, or maybe expect them to be able to express themselves easily in that situation. But actually I find for a number of our learners like that, they are actually the ones that get the most out of it.
Health and wellbeing is a very important area of the curriculum, and there was greater emphasis put on it during the pandemic. So when we were maybe not in school all the time, and then we were back in school, but things were very different, literacy, numeracy and health and wellbeing were our key focuses. So the things that you are addressing in your aims address the sort of things that, you know, the health and wellbeing aspect at school. Your other question about the pandemic was that did it impact the children? Definitely. So during the pandemic and since trying to get back to some normality, you can see that they've been affected in different ways, and I'm sure there are some children who have been affected and you can't see it so well. But academically, obviously, definitely emotionally and socially. Some children, you know, their confidence has definitely taken a knock, how they feel about things that were normal.
How has it been to be close to each other again and to have
Good,
contact?
yeah.
Yeah, good.
Way better than social distancing.
Being stuck inside and everything like that.
Not going to school.
I know.
I think for the age group that I'm teaching this year, you really can't underestimate the impact that the pandemic has had. So for the children at this age, their first 2 years, so their primary 1 and their primary 2 year, have been hugely disrupted by COVID. And what they've not had is that kind of full immersion in school life, and the, you know, all of the experiences that go along with that. So for them, their primary 3 year last year would have been their first full year back at school. You know, and within that we were still kind of operating with some restrictions, you know, particularly in terms of maybe outside groups coming in, for example yourselves, and for a lot of children in this year group there would have been an awful lot of firsts. So, you know, coming together in large numbers, you know, they wouldn't have experienced that for a couple of years. For some children, even just, you know, going to an assembly and being surrounded by that amount of people could be a really daunting experience. So for some learners, obviously that's been quite tricky, that's been quite challenging. I think definitely socially and emotionally children are probably more in need of that support and that guidance than ever.
It's a wonderful age to be working with. There is so much imagination and creativity and joy in these young people, and there's also their individuality is like peaking. They want to be seen and they want to be heard, and it was beautiful to witness this with them, and a growing sense of ease over the period where they were just dropping further into their own authentic selves and in how to kind of be in relationship with others in that way. So joyful physical connections, and also sensitive ones, and ones where they were risk-taking with each other.
It has been really enjoying, and I've always been looking forward to it every single week.
I've really enjoyed all the movements we've been doing, especially the ribbons. I really enjoy being able to express myself.
like to play with the ribbons and making new shapes. And getting to know new people. Well, I've enjoyed it because we get to do all the moves with one another and we get to just relax sometimes. The combine to create is like better than doing like maths.
I kind of like a bit of math and then some combine to create.
Yeah, you get to like, your mind like worked up and then you get to calm it down and just do some fun. My favourite thing to do in Combine to Create is mycelium. Mycelium is like, so me and Ola can both discuss what we should do. Should we be like when you connect and then people join? Yeah, we connect and people like join in. We could have like the 5,000 million people all around the world doing it. Because we could like all hold hands in the world, we'd like all do it. I love everything about Combine to Create. My favorite was kind of everything because I like the musical statues and I also like the teddy bear rolls.
There was a lot, but it was just all amazing.
Yeah, so for our final session, we had a closing circle where the young people were given awards, certificates for being amazing, just as they are, and given an opportunity to share something that they were thankful for having experienced as a group together.
Thank you everyone for being able to make shapes with other people. I'm thankful for meeting new people, having friends here with me, and learning how to express myself with other people. I am thankful for getting to be closer to people when I've been coming here.
The children have articulated them really well, that they've enjoyed having fun, connecting to their self-expression and to their feelings and sharing that with each other. So I really feel that this space needs to be continued to also look to see how embodied learning can be more embraced in the curriculum. So for example, in maths, we could take 2 turns plus 3 slides equals 5 movements, or 2 slides without 2 hands equals a conundrum.
Those traditional elements of play and the creativity and the imagination that goes into that, I think is actually really missing for quite a lot of children. They don't have to imagine because they can Google it. To give them the experience that you have and for it to be fun and for it to be playful and for them to have to use their imagination and to get a bit silly. You know, those are all fundamental childhood experiences that I do feel is fundamentally missing for a lot of children these days. So I think it's a really important part of growing up. If we can do that through school and if we can do that through working with outside parties such as yourself, it's only a positive thing.
By siting the body at the centre of primary school learning, we are equipping these young people with a greater sense of ease in themselves, to be authentic and curious and creative and compassionate and connected, and to be alive to their innate intelligence and their interconnection with each other and at home in the wider world around them.
Really enjoy combined educate. It's not something that I want to stop doing. Like,
People really miss it.
yeah, like if you had an option to keep doing it and not doing it, what would you do?
Keep doing it.
That's what I would do.